episode features a question and answer session with Paul Phillips, decoy maker and docent at the Elmer Kroll Barn Museum. Hi, Paul. What are you going to be telling us about today?
Oh, today I've gotten to the point where I've begun painting this decoy. First of all, what I've done is I've laid down base colors, just instead of having a white, the whiteness of the primer. And then I went ahead, and I hope you can see, but on the side here I've drawn in the feather patterns for the side, the other flanks of the decoy. And I will then do the actual painting of each feather and blend them together. Now on the top I've finished. That's a finished top or back of the decoy, scapulars. And I've done this in the same manner that Elmer Kroll would do it. I'm still practicing his techniques, and I've got a long ways to go before I can emulate the way he did things, because he was the master. So, base coats and finished painting. This area right here. The next will be the sides.
After how many hours of carving do you think you start with the first primer coat?
I would think probably around 35 hours altogether, from a block of wood to it being primed and ready for painting. So at this point in time, I've got around, with the painting included, around, another 10 hours, about 45 hours so far. I'm not the fastest decoy maker in the world, but I'd rather take my time and make it look really good.
What kinds of paint do you use?
I use oil paints. I prefer oil paints over a modern day acrylic paint, because I can blend an oil paint a lot better than I can with acrylics. The old timers back, I don't know, 1800s maybe, most decoy makers had their own technique of painting a decoy. Some sort of look abstract. They would accentuate the markings of a decoy, of a particular species. And that was their idea of attracting the wild duck, because they would pick up on the markings of the decoy and come in closer. Others would really go into detail on each feather, and that's kind of where I'm at with painting. I like to make it look as natural and realistic as possible. And then others, there's others that would just take the carved decoy, and especially with black ducks, and just coat it with creosote, of all things, creosote. And that would just give it a dark brown color. And it worked. The paints were sometimes just what they could find, household paints.
How often do you have to repaint them if they're in use?
I have to paint them at least once a year for a hunter, because they get thrown around, shot over. They have little shot holes in them. They get banged up pretty bad sometimes. Sometimes parts of them get broken, and that all has to be repaired. But you usually have most of the winter to fix up and get ready for a new season. Okay, the actual painting I've done so far shows the folded wing on the back. You can see how it's dark right down the middle here, it's dark than this side and that side. That's because that's where they come together, and it's a little deeper in there. And these are the scapulars. It's part of the wing feathers. We're not these feathers here are not the actual back of the duck. They're the wings folded on the back. And these are two down here, two sets here. These darker ones is the actual wingtip feathers. They're very dark. And these scapulars in here are extra long. And I have to detail these two sets out so they do stand out from each other. I started out by just the lighter color. Actually, I had to draw the feather out first. And then I just painted in the lighter color all through here. And the darker brown was painted after the light color dried. And then I took a bristle brush, a very stiff bristle brush. And while the dark brown was still tacky and wet and malleable, I pushed it up into the lighter colored paint, which was dry. That blends the two colors together. And then just to define the shape of the feather, I used a small liner brush and just did a very darker, with a lot of black in it, brown line, pyramidal type of line around each feather. And I don't think I have to go much further than that, because if you're a duck and you're flying overhead, you're not going to look for any more detail than that. This is an ongoing project and got a ways to go yet. I do believe after the sides are done, I'm going to give it the same treatment as the top, both sides. I'm going to focus on the chest, the breast, the chest and breast here. The head, I think I want to do last, because I don't want to be touching this head a lot while I'm doing the rest of the body, because I don't want to ruin it. And the tail. And that'll basically be it. It'll be all done.
All right, Paul, how did you learn to paint?
Well, when I was young, I went to the Boston Museum School of Fine Arts, and I learned the basics, drawing and painting. And I also got into the graphic arts end of it too, and learned a lot about etching and stone lithography. And Elmer Kroll himself, when he was a young man, went away to art school for a little while, and he learned the basics. So I think I have a little bit in common with Elmer, and that's the way he did it, and that's the way I've done it.
One more question for you today. Do you have a favorite piece that you've made?
A favorite piece? I have a favorite species.
Okay, which one's that?
The black duck. The black duck is a good table duck. It's food. And that's what a lot of the early Americans, settlers, went for, the black duck.
Thank you for joining us for part 3 of our video series on the artistry of bird carving. We will be releasing new videos as we journey through the process of carving and painting a decoy with museum docent and carver Paul Phillips. You can watch painting and carving demonstrations in the Elmer Kroll Barn, July through October, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Saturdays. For more information about the Harwich Historical Society, the Brooks Academy Museum, and the Elmer Kroll Barn, visit us at www.harwichhistoricalsociety.org.